Hi everyone, I have been asked to do a video to demonstrate colour mixing, and I thought I would bring along the colour wheel that I've got here and just talk a little bit about it. I haven't got a plan, so I'll probably end up blathering on. Now this colour wheel is not just a colour wheel. Now on here it talks about complementary colours and things like that. So what you can do here on this side of the colour wheel is you can select a colour and it will tell you what goes with what. So a triad would be 3 like that. So say I want to use red and I want to know what goes with it, I can look at that one and that will work. Or there are other shapes here. It tells you how to use it for choosing colours, but what we're actually going to be talking about today is mixing colours to make colours. What I've got here in front of me are 3 sets of pencils. Now these are Prismacolor, Polychormos and Derwent Lightfast, and these are the just moving my lamp slightly, these are the sets of 12. So if you order just a 12 set of pencils, this is what you'll get from these particular brands. And you don't get all the colours. For example, none of these sets have a grey. So how do we make these colours? Now I was taught this when I was at school. We had to make our own colour wheel as our very first art lesson, but I realised that not everybody has done that, and not everybody all will remember. So this particular colour wheel, I will put a link to it in the description. It comes in 2 sizes, just to say that first. It comes in 2 sizes. There's a really small one, which is only about that big. It's about 1/3 of the size of this, or this one. Now, depending on, obviously the small one is cheaper, but depending on how good you are at manipulating things, you know, how your fingers are and things like that. And it has this on the back, which helps you choose colours. So this shows you, so let's pick a colour. Let's pick red, and if we spin the wheel to, here, it will tell us if we add red, we get red, and if we add yellow, we get orange, and if we add blue, we get purple, and if we add white, we get pink, and if we add black, we get a darker red. So it's quite useful for knowing what we can add. But if you want to make pink, how would you'd have to keep spinning this wheel round until a pink appeared in one of these windows. Like here, there's a sort of dark pink, and then you've got your light pink. No, that's not pink. Sorry, that one, your light pink. So you'd have to sort of spin it until you found the colour, say in there, or whatever it might be that you like, and then you can, let's say you like this colour, so you can turn it around and say, oh, I like that colour. What's that? Oh, it's green and blue. Okay, so that will help you a little bit in working out how to make colours. It tells you a little bit here about primary, secondary, tertiary colours, warm and cool colours, things like that, and the sort of tints, tones, shades, hues, colours and things, and what all those things mean. I'm not going to go through all of those. I thought we would have a little bit of fun doing a little bit of mixing with the different brands. Not only will it show us how well the different brands work, but it will just show you what to do, really. So I've got a blank piece of copy paper. I'm leaning on a book so you can see through it, which, hang on, I think I'm just going to get a bigger wad of paper. Too many bits of paper now. Bear with me. There we go. Right. Wad of paper. There we go. And something to lean on. I don't like colouring straight onto my desk. Okay. So where should we start? Let's start with the Prismacolor. Now this is what you get in the 12 set. So you get a white, a canary yellow, you get an orange, a crimson red, a violet blue, a true blue, a grass green, apple green, you get the sienna brown, the dark brown and the black. And when you first look at that, you think, well, that's actually really quite a good useful range. But what happens if I want a lemon yellow, a grey, a pale blue? What do I do? So let's have a go. Let's start with grey, because there's no greys here at all. So what do you add together to make grey? Let's grab our our thing, our wheel, and we spin. It's not going to tell us because there's no grey, black or white. Grey is made from black and white. There's no, it shows you here the grey scale. Okay, there's no so that says 100% white and that says 100% black. So that's where the greys are around here. So we now know we need a black and a white to make our grey. So let's start. It's not good. The white isn't going to show up on our paper, so I'm going to start with the black. And how much black and how much white do you use will depend on how dark you want your grey to be. So let's fade up at like that. Okay, and then we get our white. And we start by covering up the bottom. Now with a Prisma, we'll immediately see a good blend. Let's come in a bit closer for you. There we go. So you immediately see that it's blending up because that's how Prismas tend to work. I'm pressing really hard. There we go. So you can see you've immediately got a transition from your black. We don't go all the way down to white. We could do, but you won't see it. Through a darker grey and then a lighter grey. Okay, and you could get an even lighter grey if you use a tiny bit of black like that. And then smudge some white into it. It's a bit tricky. So there's a grey. So that, now let's say I've got this blue. This is the only blue I've got, apart from the blue violet, the true blue. I want a darker blue. What do? Well, put down my blue. Let's have a look at the shade of the blue. What am I going to darken it? Well, I could use several things to darken it. I've got these violet. I've got a violet blue I could use to darken it with, but then it's going to have a slight violet tone. Or I could use the black. Let's try both. So here's the black. It's quite black, isn't it? But that's okay. And here's the violet blue. We'll put it on top. And it hasn't really, it just looks like those colours on top. But what we need to do is grab our blue again. And now when we go over the top, look, we've got a dark blue. Or here, we've got a different, it's quite black that, but with the Prisma, the more you go over, you can change the shade. I think it works better with this blue violet. Yeah, so now I want a light blue. What am I going to do? I'm going to add my white. I'm going to scribble my white over here to clean the black off the tip. There we go. There we go. Can lighten it, and the more we'll add a lot more white down here at the bottom, and you can see you can get it lighter and lighter. There we are. So that is those colours. Now we've done blues. Let's do some different colours with different brand of pencil, because sometimes it works a little bit differently. So let's go for, I've got my polychromos here. Now what you get with your polychromos is you get a white, you get a cadmium yellow, you get a cadmium orange, you get a deep scarlet red, magenta, light ultramarine, phthalo blue, emerald green, what's that, light green, burnt ochre, walnut brown and black. Okay, now let's say I want a dark red. Okay, so this red is a deep scarlet red. It's not really dark. So hang on. Now polychromos work in a slightly different way. Just turn the page around to Prismacolors. With the Prismas, you could see they were actually moving the pigment around on the page. You can see how it's come off. Really squashed it. You can't do that with polychromos. So what we have to do is layer it. So here's our red. I want that a bit darker. What am I going to use to darken it? I could use this. This is darker. You can see that these are lighter they're not going to darken it. This is darker, and the black and the brown. If I have brown to red, what's going to happen? Well, I don't know, to be honest. I think it'll get darker, but it'll look a bit more browny. My colour wheel doesn't tell me. So let's have a look. Let's do an area and see what happens. So if I add this colour, this is the magenta, on top. You can see it makes it darker. Yeah. Let's try the brown. Now with polychromos, you need to layer up. So that just looks like brown now. And we'll find when we put the black down, it will just look like black. It's just covered over the red. So let's put another layer of red on top. So this one looks nicely like dark red. This one now looks like a reddish brown. And this one just looks like a dirty mess. So I like that one. Okay, so it is a matter of a little bit of experimentation. Now let's say, now some of these are harder to achieve than others. So let's say I want a light red. I can't do that because if I put down my red and I try and lighten it with my white, what's going to happen? Well, you get pink. It's not too bad. The white on this one, the polychromos white, is not particularly effective. If I use the prismacolor white, I'm just trying to get the blue off it. Yeah, if I use the prismacolor white, it sits on top better. But it's still, it's fairly light red, but there's definitely a pinky tone because white and red. Oh, now we've got some blue. Makes pink. So some colours are not going to be achievable, but let's try our grey, because again we don't have a grey in this set, so we've got black and white. I would start, now do you start with the black or with the white? Don't know. Let's start with the black. Do what we did with the last set. There's our black, here's our white. Let's just scribble it over here because it's got orange on it. There we go. So you can see the white doesn't do the same thing as the white of the Prisma white, but it is making this look slightly lighter, but it's not really making a huge difference. It's a little bit lighter here, but I would say that's still quite a dark grey. If we start with the white, you can't see. I can barely see, so I put down quite a lot of white. Let's put the black on top. I'm putting it down really lightly, and then I'm going to put some white on top of it. Still not particularly effective, but it's definitely lighter than that. Yeah. So if you put down some white first, that might be a better way to get your grey. Now let's use our next set. We've got our Derwent Lightfast. Bring them into shot. Here we go. Now with Derwent Lightfast, we get white, sun yellow, scarlet, salmon, violet, mid ultramarine, mallard green, yellow ochre, sandstone, brown ochre, natural brown and black. So again we've got no grey, so let's play with that first, but we've also got no light purple. Here you go. We haven't got any light purple or dark pink, so we can have a play. So here's our black. Let's just do this first. And here's the white. So you can see you can get a bit of a grey, and if we put more white on this side, let's put white all over it again. Put a lot more on this side, you can see these pencils are more like Prismacolor in the way that they work, so it actually moves the pigment. You can see the black pigment coming off more so than it did with the polychromos, and we're getting a bit of a grey. Okay, but we need to create, we haven't got an orange. Let's make an orange. got red and yellow, so this is scarlet and sun yellow. I'm just going to do a little patch. It's still quite vibrant, isn't it? But let's try it the other way round. Let's put the yellow down first, like we did when we were making our grey with the polychromos. Put down quite a light layer of red, and then yellow on top. It's still quite vibrant, isn't it? Because the colours are so bright. But keep working it. My paper is not very happy. You can get a lighter orange. Now, pink. We don't really have a pink. I'm not really sure. I think we can probably make one from red and white. So I'm going to put down some white. Let's just clean the end of the white. Cool, we're making a mess. You can't see. Let's get our red. Put it down on top. It looks really orangey. Obviously, I must have got some yellow on the end. There's our red, and let's go back over with the white. I'm not entirely sure that I actually put it on top of the white because I couldn't see. Just removing the red. It's not really, it is a little bit pink, but it's not really. I mean, we do have this salmon pink, which we can, it's not very pinkish, is it? Let's add a bit of red to that. Just a little bit. They decided they're going to roll away. I don't want to join them first. Put my brush there, stop them rolling away. So put a little bit of red in with the salmon pink, and then mix it about. It still looks quite orangey. A little bit darker. Now, what am I going to try? We don't have. We try grey. We don't have a dark blue, but we have a mallard green. We don't have a light green. We have a mallard green, a mid ultramarine. We don't have a dark blue. Let's try. What do you think happens if we mix these two? Look how it's quite a bluey green. We're going to get a turquoisey colour. That's pretty, isn't it? Put a bit green on top. Now, I quite like a sort of try and make a. What if I want a green like this? How am I going to make it? Well, oops. Let's put some of this down and put some. Let's try some sun yellow on top. What's going to happen? So it's not that light, but it's definitely less. This is the mallard green. So it's definitely made it look more like a mid green, which is quite useful. I wonder what happens if I put a white with it. That lines it down, look. It's still not, we're not going to get that. But it's, you know, reasonably close. So I think the key with this sort of thing is you need to experiment on scrap paper. Don't go into your book or your art piece and just start trying to mix colours on the final thing, because you could end up with feeling very upset. But just try some mixes. So let's try a mix now. Let's say, what should we try? Look, this tells us, let's just go here randomly. So yellow, orange, and that blue makes that green. Should we see if it works? Let's find a colour. We don't really have a yellow orange. Let's take a colour we do have, hang on. So saying yellow and white makes this nice colour here. So let's try that. What should we use? We'll try this one with the Lightfast. So we've got our sun yellow. Hang on. God, such a mess. So here's our original colour. I'm going to leave a bit of that this time. I think I haven't been doing a very good job of demonstrating because I haven't. And here's the white. Let's just clean the end. Let's try whitening. I am not seeing very much of a difference. Getting there. It had a lot of white. I feel like I'm not adding white, I'm just taking away yellow. It's slightly more lemony. How many more layers? Now, some paper doesn't take a lot of layers, so you have to be very careful. Let's try it the other way. How about, I'm just going to draw a little box and put my white in it because I can't see my white when I put it down. Oh, it's a bit yellow on the end. Put some white down. I'm just going to do white in half the box, a really thick layer, and then put my yellow. So there's the original yellow. I'm going to put it down a bit lighter. It looks quite lemony on top of that white, less creamy. I don't know how much you can see. Let's try putting the white back on top of it. It's okay, isn't it? It's not. Let's try it with a different one. Should try it with the polys. These are the polychromos. So here's our yellow. It's quite a thick layer of yellow. Here's our white. There's nothing. I've not picked the best colour combo, have I? Should try it in Prisma. This is the canary yellow. This is the white, which is really dirty. Now, clean it. There we go. Doesn't work, does it? Obviously, colour pencils are not so responsive to fading with white. That's very, very disappointing, isn't it? Let's try something more. Let's try adding black to a green and getting a darker green, because that's quite difficult, I think. Let's try it with Prismas. I think they might be the easiest. So we've got an apple green and a black. So here's our green. I'm going to add black to half of it here. Now you can't just leave it like that. It just looks like there's some black sitting on top of the green. You've got to blend it in, so you've got to go back to your green, go over the top and work it in a little bit. It looks quite like there's just dirty black streaks in it. If you keep working, I'm hoping that that will go away. It's a bit darker, but it's still, I can see those streaks in it. Let's try it with, what have we got here, Lightfast. So we're going, our green is quite dark in the Lightfast, but we can still make it darker. So this is the mallard green, which, remember, is almost blue. I think this looks blue. It doesn't matter, because the point of it is to darken it, not to. So put a bit of black on top. Again, it just looks like dirty streaks. So we'll get our mallard green back on top of here. See if we can blend it in. It's not brilliant, but it's definitely a bit darker. Yeah, it's a bit better. Now, polychromo is going to be harder work. So we've got our light green and our black. We're starting off with a much lighter colour, but we don't have to go as dark as this. It's just to try it. So with the black, just lay a bit on there, and then we're going to have to work it with the light green. Now polychromos don't move very much on the paper, so trying to blend that in, it's not going to work. So I'm going to put a bit more black on, like that, and a bit more green. Go in both directions. Not particularly good, it just looks like black. So next, let's try blending pencils. Now, I find the Prismacolor one is the best, so that's what I'm going to use, because it works for all of these brands. Now let's try it on this. Is it going to improve this at all? It's actually moving off that black pigment, is taking it off. It has just completely removed the black pigment, look at that. That's very interesting. Now this one does actually mix it up a bit better, I think. Let's just clean this off before we do it with the other one. Whoop. Our last one was here. I think this is going to end up removing the pigment too. Look at that. It just takes the black away. Wow. Ah, fascinating. But it's still a bit of a different colour. So, I think what we can conclude is that although you can change the colour of coloured pencils, it isn't maybe as easy as it would be with paint, and different brands work in different ways. It makes it a little bit complicated, but you can use your colour wheel, but you just have to be a little bit delicate, I think, with your layering. So let's have another go at our red and orange, like here. See, it does look orange, but it just doesn't look perfect. You know, you can see there's red and yellow. It just doesn't look like you've put down an orange. I think if I went more gently, maybe it would work better. So maybe if I start with a really light layer, then put down a light layer, and then put down a light layer, a couple of layers, a little bit more red, just to tidy it up. And then quite a bit more yellow. To me, in the camera it might look orange, but to me all I can see is red sitting on top of yellow, I think, which is obviously what it is, but it's quite interesting. But one thing is, if you're trying to make colours darker and lighter, that's something you can definitely do with pencil. So let's say I've coloured this yellow here and I want a bit darker, then I could, I'm trying to remember what brand that is, it probably doesn't matter. If I want it to be slightly darker, I can use my brown ochre, for example, to create a bit of shadow on it. Let's say I want a bit of shadow at the bottom, like that. And choosing the right colour to create the shadow, that can be a little bit tricky as well. But what I tend to do is I will look at what colours I've got and think about what's going to work colour-wise. So let's look at these. These are our These are our Lightfast. And let's say I've got this light blue here and I want something a bit darker. I'm not going to try and, if I want a shadow, if I've got a cold colour, we do have the cold colours and warm colours labelled on our colour wheel. So the cool colours go this way and the warm colours go this way. Let's come out a lot. There we go. Actually, let's just move this all aside. There we go. So these are our, if I put it there, it's got all our warm colours on this side and all our cool colours on this side. Okay, and we're getting cooler as we go that way and that way. So those, sorry, warmer. So that's the warmest and that's the coolest. And it sort of spreads out and round, as far as I can think, I can tell. So let's say I have got a yellow and I want to make it darker. I would want to use one of these warmer colours to darken it. So maybe an orange, maybe a brown. But I wouldn't want to use a black, I know we haven't got black on this side, or a grey to darken it, because I feel that those are much colder. They're more like silvers, cold colours. So if I was using a yellow orange, I might use an orange, a red and orange, or that sort of colour. For an orange I would use a red or a brown to make it darker. Same here, I'd use a brown. And for a red, sometimes I use a violet to make it a bit darker, as I showed you earlier. Adding the magenta to the red made it significantly darker, and that worked quite well. You could use violet. As soon as you start using something like blue, you get purple. Can you see here? So it's quite worth looking here. So if I add red to red, I get red, but if I add yellow, I'm going to get orange. So if I want to make my red lighter, I don't want to add yellow because I'll get orange. If I add white, I'll get pink. So, which I'll show you here. So it's very difficult to get your red, a lighter shade of red. You have to just press a little bit lighter. You could make it slightly pink, but that'll give you a sort of milky effect. It depends what you're looking for. And if you add black to red, it'll go darker, but we saw there that black can be a little bit troublesome. I think part of the reason is that the colours are so different. Like if I add a bit of violet to red, they're quite close colours, but black is so different that it shows up as being a different colour. And we can do the same with our cooler colours here. So with our greens, we can have red, add a bit of red and get us nice warm browns. So if I want to make my sort of greens darker, I could add a red, but I tend to just use a brown. I've usually got a brown and it makes it a little bit darker. But if you add yellow to your green, it can make it lighter. However, don't add yellow to blue to make it lighter, so you get green. So if you want to lighten a blue, you're going to have to use a white, which I'll show you here. There you go. What else can I tell you? The violets, I'm not really sure, because they're a mixture already of colours. Not sure what happens. I'm just having a quick look. So if you add, look, yellow to violet, you get this nasty khaki colour. I suppose it could work for some things, so that's interesting. But this is really very useful, and because you can just keep it with you, you don't have to remember these things. I tend to remember some of the ones that I learnt when I was quite young, so I know that yellow and red make orange and that sort of thing, and you can see that here. So these make all these in there. Depending on how much, the more yellow you have, the lighter that is. Okay, and over here, your blues and yellows make greens. So here, these two together, so that gets, you know, you lighten your blue and then it goes to turquoise and green. And then this one is a bit strange. I think here you've got your red and blue, which makes your violets here. Okay, it's just adding white, which it doesn't tell you on here, but you've got this handy little, all black, but you've got the handy pieces here which you can use to show you what colours form if you add white and black. which is very useful. And these three being the three primary colours, which are the main three colours. So if you buy a set of pan pastels, for example, you will get, they have a primary colour set, and it just comes with red, yellow, blue, white and black, and then it's up to you to blend them. Now I think with a pan pastel, because it's very soft, it would probably be a lot easier to layer up and get different colours. Pencils are a little more troublesome because they're a little bit harder, so blending them is trickier. But you can see we did manage to make greys with all of these, even the very hard ones. We could still make a grey, but also you've got but you've also got the options, of course, of buying pencils in between. So I think if you've got a 12 set, let's say of polychromos, and you want, say, a pale pink, you might struggle to get one, even if you mix the white. Oh, everything's going everywhere. So let's say you want a pale pink, so you might use your magenta and your white. You can only get a certain amount within this sort of colour family, as it were. So you can lighten it to that, which to me is still quite dark. Or if we put the white down first and put a bit on, you can get a slightly lighter colour. But it's not, but you might want something that's, say, a carmine or a fuchsia, something like that. You know, trying to make it with these colours could be a little bit tricky. You might have to add a bit of red, just a little bit, and then a bit more white. And then if you're using thin paper in your colouring book or your sketchbook, you might find that that's as many layers as you can add before your paper starts to wear thin or you start to indent the back. I was practicing this actually on some paper, and it was a sketchbook that I had, and after 6 layers it actually tore the paper. A bit of paper just chipped off, so that wasn't very useful. But you can see that there are certain blends, different sets have different colours as well. So within the, as you could see, within the Derwent Lightfast set, you've actually got a brown ochre, a walnut brown, a sienna brown, and a yellow ochre. You've got all these nice earthy browns, but you don't have much in the way of sort of pinks, but actually in the main set you don't either. So you'll have to have a think about whether you can sort of make something with the with the red and the white, something like that, because you want to run away. There we go, stay there. But again, with only this one red, it actually goes orange. Isn't that funny? That red has gone orange. Let's try adding this salmon to it. I think that's going to make it worse. So you can't make a pink from that. Let's try making it with the violet. What happens if we add the salmon to the violet? Oh, it just goes slightly lighter. That's quite interesting. So you can't really make pink at all from these. No. Fascinating. So you would have to buy one. Now, with all these 3 sets of pencils that I'm testing, you can buy them open stock, meaning you can buy individual pencils. So sometimes you will need to do that because you just won't get all the colours that you want. So for example there, I just couldn't make a pink. So if you want a pink that isn't this sort of salmon, then you would have to buy one. I think there is a colour a bit like this. This is obviously the magenta from the polychormos. Is a colour a bit like this, and that's all you get with the Derwent Lightfast. I think it's because pinks aren't very Lightfast. But so you may have to buy a few more to be able to make more colours, but at least you now hopefully know how you can use this a little bit to show you how to make colours. But also I think it's more useful with pencil colouring because we get quite a good range of colours even in a 12 set, to know about how to lighten and darken them. So adding warm colours, so if you're using your warm colours, your red, yellow, orange, these, darken them with a brown. And if you're using your cold colours, then you might want to darken with a black, but I actually find greys are better. A Payne's grey, you know, a charcoal, it might be more browny, it depends on the set. So something that isn't, I find black can be quite dirty and look quite smudgy and nasty, so it can be worth trying other things as well. As I said, sometimes a violet or a dark blue can be quite good, and it's just a matter of playing, because in your mind you've got the idea of the colour that you want, and you just need to keep mixing up on scrap paper until you find that colour. But hopefully that might have helped you a little bit, particularly on maybe how to use this to help you. On the back we've got lots of different shades of the colours. It tells us that this is the pure colour, this is a tint, this is a tone, and this is a shade, which is interesting. And it also gives us the triads complementary colours. The ones opposite each other are complementary. So this yellow green is complementary to this red violet, for example. So when you've got a picture and you're not sure what colours to match together, this can help you. So there's a sort of split complementary colours and triads and things like that, so you can use it to help you match colours. Now obviously we have things like the colour cube cards and colour palette cards and things like that that can be useful, but this does it all on one little simple thing with, you know, your different different information on each side, which can be quite handy. So that's how you sort of use it, how you might use it with your pencils, how difficult it is with pencils. And we've got those 3 different brands, 3 premium brands I would say, although Prismacolor, I don't know if they're always considered to be premium brands, but they're the like sort of 3 popular brands that you might use, and you can see how sometimes it can be quite tricky. So don't beat yourself up if you can't get it quite to work, but you know, keep playing with it and see what sorts of results you get. But that's me. I'm going to go and play around a bit more, I think, or maybe have some lunch. But thank you for watching. I hope that gave you a few ideas of things to try and experiment with, and happy colouring.